Argentinians went to the polls yesterday amid economic crisis, soaring inflation, and growing poverty. And as many nations have in the last decade, including the U.S., they elected a populist outsider. Economist, author, and media commentator Javier Milei can now add another title to his resume, President-elect, thanks to an exhausted and angry electorate. Argentinian President-elect Javier Milei celebrated his election win amidst a euphoric crowd.
Today we turn the page on our history and we return to the path that we should never have lost.
Promising a new political era.
Stop this impoverishing model of the caste. Today we embrace the libertarian model so as to return to being a global power.
Supporters filled the streets of Buenos Aires last night, hoping Milei's election means an end to decades of economic crises.
I think this time Argentina needed a change, and that's why I bet on this new proposal.
Milei won with some 56% of the vote, defeating establishment candidate Sergio Massa, who oversaw the nation's slide into triple-digit inflation as economy minister for the ruling Peronist party. Massa was leading after the first round of voting in October, but last night conceded the race before results were even released.
Obviously, the results are not what we expected, and I have communicated with Javier Milei to congratulate him and wish him luck, because he is the president that most Argentines elected for the next 4 years.
An economist and former TV pundit, Milei has drawn comparisons to Donald Trump, and his rise to power has been swift. He was elected to Congress in 2021, promising to, quote, blow up the system. A self-described anarcho-capitalist, he's pledged to shut down Argentina's central bank, adopt the U.S. dollar as national currency, and make deep economic cuts. Policies he sold on the campaign trail by brandishing a chainsaw and demolishing a central bank-themed piñata.
Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera.
Milei also opposes abortion rights, wants to end the Ministry of Women, Gender, and Diversity, and to loosen gun restrictions. He also famously has 4 cloned dogs, created in a New York lab, whom he thanked when he won the August primary.
I want to thank the 4-legged children, Murray, Milton, Robert, and Lucas.
A novice politician who has already grasped one of the profession's oldest rules. If you want a friend in politics, get a dog. Or 4. For more on what Milei's win means for Argentina and beyond, we're joined by Oliver Stunkel. He teaches international relations in Brazil and is a non-resident fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Oliver, welcome. So why did Milei's message resonate with voters in Argentina so strongly right now?
Hi, Anma. So I think that Milei's victory is not altogether surprising because neither the center-right government of Macri between 2015 and 19, nor the center-left government of Alberto Fernandez over the past 4 years have managed to stabilize Argentina's economy. And as a consequence, I think there was a sense that any change, even by a candidate who's has proposed lots of radical ideas, many of which I think some of his voters don't even support, was seen as the best idea. This was a change election, a growing consensus that things cannot remain as they are. And the big question, of course, is whether Milei will govern now as the radical that he was during the first part of this electoral campaign, or the more moderate candidate that he projected himself to be during the runoff when he tried to attract centrist voters, which he achieved as the results on Sunday show.
Well, he steps into power pretty soon, right? On December 10th, so we should get some answers fairly quickly. But what do you expect to happen? He has proposed, as you said, some radical ideas, getting rid of entire government agencies altogether, pegging the currency to, or rather changing the currency to the U.S. dollar. Do you expect him to see those through right away?
I think that will be very difficult because Milei doesn't have a majority in Congress. He doesn't have a large party. He doesn't have any of the powerful political groups behind him, like Bolsonaro, for example, who had the armed forces behind him. So he will have to articulate some broad consensus involving more moderate lawmakers. The former President Macri and the defeated candidate Bullrich, who is a traditional conservative, supported him in the runoff in an attempt to moderate him. So the dynamic we'll see now is one between Milei's supporters of the first hour, who actually want to do away with old politics, who believe his rhetoric about destroying the political elite. But on the other hand, you have technocrats and more moderates who Milei will need to govern. He won't be able to pass a single law without the support of established figures. He won't be able to govern without appointing bureaucrats who don't really share his ideas. Those are the very people he has criticized and attacked during the campaign as the deep state, and now he'll have to work with them. So I think it will be very unlikely that he'll be able to govern as a radical. However, he could, try plebiscites and govern by decree, but that usually doesn't end well in Argentine politics. Also important to remember that most presidents who don't have a majority in Congress struggle to get things done, and many of them don't even finish their time in office.
In the minute and a half or so I have left, I have to ask, Milei is close to the former far-right Brazilian leader, Jair Bolsonaro. He's also a supporter of former U.S. President Donald Trump. What does Milei's election mean for the relationship between Argentina and the U.S., led by President Biden, who has warned consistently about the rise of far-right authoritarian leaders?
Well, it certainly poses an obstacle because Milei, as you say, is a Trump fan. He's a Bolsonaro fan. So I don't think that Milei will be on talking terms to Brazil's President Lula. And that, of course, is a problem because the two should be talking. Those are the two major economies of South America. They've got lots of issues to deal with. But in the past, between Bolsonaro, who was far right, and left-wing President Fernandez, the two were already estranged. So I think we'll see perhaps the bureaucrats talking while the presidents don't really speak. Now, for the United States, I think it will be necessary to somehow engage the Milei government because there's also lots of issues the two will have to discuss. And I think potentially U.S. pressure on Milei to, for example, respect basic rights and to not threaten Argentine democracy are certainly issues that will be discussed in the bilateral relationship between Argentina and the United States.
Issues we will be following. That is Oliver Stunkel, non-resident fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, joining us tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.